We are.
We are. And you are the creator of Ithica Hours. Now, I've been doing this radio show for almost 20 years, and the Free American magazine for 20 years. Used to be on the newsstands, used to be all over the place, all over the world. And I was talking about the Federal Reserve back then. There is still the problem. The IRS is still the problem in the headlines all the time as being a tyranny against Americans. And the problem, one of the problems we have is how do you oppose something, a monolithic conspiracy, as JFK put it. How do you oppose something like that when they print your money and they control your the information flow that you get? How do you oppose something like the Federal Reserve by using their money? You came up with a solution to that, I think, and I talked about it on my radio shows 20 years ago. I talked about it in my magazine. I featured stories about Ithica Hours. Would you kind of take over here and tell me why you started this, why you did this, and then we'll get into how it works and why it's working? It's another one of my theories here,
Sure.
Paul. Paul,
in the early 90s during the...
Go ahead. Go ahead, sir.
Yes, sir. In fact, during the Great Recession of the early 90s, there was a need for more money in our community. A lot of people had talents and skills that were not being utilized by the formal economy, and so it occurred to me that if we were going to have enough money, we'd have to print it ourselves. And so I designed some on my home computer, walked around town, and convinced gradually thousands of people in Ithica, including 500 businesses, including a hospital, bank, public library, movie theaters, bowling alleys, health clubs, restaurants, you name it, that this was real money. And since then, millions of dollars value of this money has been traded. The hour equals, one hour equals an hour of basic labor for $10, which 20 years ago was double the minimum wage, and the average of wage salaries per hour in the Ithica area. Professionals can charge multiple Ithica hours per hour. It's the basis of negotiation among people, which is less abstract than dollars. We refer to the Federal Reserve, of course. We wanted not only to have more money in the community, but more control over money and what money does. And that means by printing our own, we get to issue it as grants to community organizations, over 100 such so far, and to make loans, in our case, without charging interest, which is a fundamental monetary revolution. Loans up to $30,000 have been made in the form of our own local paper cash. And we wanted less abject dependence on a national and global money system. There is currently a monopoly on printing monopoly money. Our money we consider real money because it's backed by a distinct list of thousands of ways that can be spent among local people for goods and services. So we call it real money. And by contrast, dollars have become no longer, of course, backed by either gold or silver, but by less than nothing. By, I think it's a $16 trillion national debt currently. So when you ask about or speak of opposing a gigantic money system beyond our control, I feel that it's important, among other things, to create models that prove that it can be done better. And certainly long ago was done much better before the Federal Reserve, and we agree. But at the same time, we're going to have alternatives proving a practical pathway beyond what is currently the monopoly in pretty much.
Now, what kind of opposition now? I can't. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I carry a $5 bill around in my wallet, and it is actually pretty much only real money we've had. It was issued by John F. Kennedy in 1963 under Executive Order 11110. It says United States note across the top of it. And it's, of course, they killed Kennedy to prevent that from happening. Lyndon Johnson, the same man that tried to sink the USS Liberty, recalled that money on Air Force One going back to Washington D.C. after they killed our president. So, and Lincoln did the same thing. So it's kind of dangerous to oppose these bankers. Have you suffered any threats or any type of repercussions from this, from what you've done?
No, curiously, the media contacted the IRS, the U.S. Treasury Department, the Secret Service, the FBI, and the Federal Reserve. None of whom could find a law specifically against burning ours and trading it as money in our community. I think the stipulation is that it not look like U.S. dollars, nor purport to be U.S. dollars, and that it had a dollar equivalency. The hour, they said, has a $10 per hour equivalency, and there's a unit of negotiation among people for goods and services. And that allows, in such cases where a transaction is of a taxable nature, that people be able to calculate their tax liability with that. As the issuers of the money, we have no responsibility to track who has or has earned how much of the money. Just as with any cash transaction, that is the responsibility of the transactor. So curiously, no. In fact, there has been a book written by a professor of legal research at George Washington University titled Rethinking Our National Monetary System, the case for local currencies. And he lays out very authoritatively in there that there is no law against printing money locally. And during the Great Depression, as many of the listeners may know, there were hundreds of U.S. communities which printed emergency money during the bank holiday imposed by Franklin Roosevelt in order to assess the relative viability of banks at risk or perceived at risk by people who were lined up to pull their money out. So during that bank holiday, there was an emergency. There was lack of circulating medium in many communities. Printed their own. Anybody from a storekeeper to Chamber of Commerce, veterans organizations, gas stations, you name it, people invented money that had credibility, especially since there was no alternative to it. When the banks reopened, that money fell out of use. The Ithica arm is intended to address an endless emergency. That is, that money is controlled by banking systems beyond Ithica and the systems which don't care about what happens to our community. And so we have done that. And we've created or expanded and strengthened trading among local businesses, especially, and brought into the marketplace the skills of individuals, anything from home cooking and babysitting to plumbing, carpentry, and electric, which were not part of the formal economy. Brought those into the local marketplace and have created or helped or significantly contribute to that spirit of can-do in our community and of a human economy, a marketplace which is consists of actual humans who encounter each other face to face, who become friends and lovers and political allies. The old-fashioned kind of marketplace, very different than the global market, which is an abstraction creating electronic digits, literally at the speed of light, all day long. So these are the differences between local currency that connects people and a national or global money system that controls people. Those are the reasons why we printed money today.
Now, there has been a move. I've been reporting on this New World Order, which ain't really a New World Order at all, I don't think. I think the money changers Jesus ran out of the temple are still with us. They just changed the name of the temple. Don't they call it the Federal Reserve or the Bank of England or the International Monetary Fund now?
Yeah, there have always been some people in any society throughout history who have wanted to hog the blanket, have more control and to dominate. That's always been the case. And it is as well, when it's gotten too severe, of course, there have been revolutions. And I believe it's Leviticus in the Bible. I'm not a Bible scholar, but I believe that Leviticus refers to the Jubilee. Society understood that over enough time, some people would have too much, and a lot of people would have too little. That would be cataclysmic for society, because otherwise you inevitably, in such cases, get some kind of a revolution. So in order to prevent the severe dislocation and the bloodshed, they just said, oh, I'm going to have a jubilee. We're going to throw it in the pot, but I'll start over again. And likewise, another example of that was the Kwakiutl Indians of the Pacific Northwest. They had potlatches. The rich were not respected until they threw a party, gave everything away, and sat there naked in their huts. At which time people came and gave them clothes and food with great honor. They were highly honored thereafter for their generosity rather than their greed. So yeah, it's an old story that society has sought to address in different ways. And I feel that the local currency contributes to not only model the different pathways to the issuance of money, the different basis, the value, which
now,
contributes
you are having an effect.
More human economy.
You are having an effect here. You know, and I like to think maybe I helped with that. When I did a story about Ithica Hours 15 years ago, you've been doing it for 22, I think I found out about you about 15 years ago, and I did a story. And today there are more things popping up. I just saw a story about them doing this in California, one town in California. And they're doing that in Colorado. I believe I'll have that gentleman on my show on Monday. It's called Mountain Money or Mile High Hours or something like that. Is this happening around the country now? Is this are people taking this idea and applying it locally? I mean, that's really what it takes for us to oppose a financial tyranny. We have to find ways to work together, and I want to talk to you about that during this show here. But the Ithica Hours Project, Mile High, Mountain Money, whatever.
Beginning
Go ahead, sir. Sorry,
soon after beginning, there were inquiries from other cities around the United States, and then gradually from all over the world. And I put together initially a starter kit, how to do it, and converted that gradually into a book titled Hometown Money. If people want to check that out, my webpage is paulglover.org. And that book provides step-by-step pathway for how we did it in Ithica, and refers to experiments in other cities. Many other cities in the United States began local currencies. And those which survived engaged a full-time network. The reason Ithica system became gigantic, as I said, with thousands of individuals and over 500 businesses transacting millions of dollars equivalent value of this money, because it had the benefit of a full-time networker, or somebody on the street. And in the case of Ithica, that was me, constantly promoting, facilitating, troubleshooting the circulation of the money. But just as any national monetary system has an army of brokers, we're constantly poking and prodding to keep that money moving around. The local economy and its currency must also have a local networker constantly on the street, reassuring people and facilitating, assisting people to use the money and keep it flowing around town. And so the communities which began following the example in Ithica that have succeeded are those which have engaged a full-time network. It should be an honored profession in every community, somebody who connects people on the basis of their capabilities. And,
well, I've got to take that with you saying that.
Became news and then replicated around the world.
With you saying that, I said with that comment, I've got to break in a little bit and tell you, a number of years ago, I had the north half of a two-house town in New Mexico, and I decided I wanted to do something with that. And it was on the main highway, and I figured if I could start a little trailer park there, or a camping system there, or a motel there, I could probably make some pretty good money off of it. And eventually I looked at cabins made by Cavco that you could just move out there, and I also looked at low-cost structures like teepees and yurts, which were finding favor in New Mexico at the time. I figured basically if somebody was driving along and saw a 10 teepees there and a yurt, there was a restaurant, they'd stop in and say hello. And I also came to the conclusion that if we grow our own food and generate our own energy from everything God gave us, we don't really need the banks for much. And that was my Liberty Village concept. Now, there was a problem. There was a problem with that because my little town was 30 miles from the nearest Walmart, and people couldn't move out there in the middle of nowhere because they had jobs in the city. So, yeah, I think this is the right type of life and going in the right direction, but didn't work. You only got people traveling by. Over the years between that and a few traumatic experiences, I came up with the idea, why do we have to move to the country? Why can't we bring the country to the city? Now, all these neighborhoods that we got in these cities where people are living, so they got jobs. All of those homes that they're living in used to be a farm, used to be a ranch. We carved the city out of the country. Why can't we bring the country back to the city? In other words, and it's been done, you know, it's,
I enthusiastically agree with you on that.
Well, you know, it just kind of struck me.
I certainly enthusiastically agree with that.
It's being done. It's being done just like you took the lead to create Ithica, and that's spread around the country. The idea, you live in this house, on this block, in this neighborhood. Why can't you turn that house into more of an asset than growing crabgrass in the backyard? If you put a garden in the backyard and a solar unit on your roof, that house will make you hundreds of dollars every month. And if you got food growing in the background, you'll never go hungry. Your children you can grow up the way I grew up with my grandmother cooking from her Liberty garden over there in Weatherford, Texas, next to the church. And the in Oklahoma, the Oklahoma Food Co-op, I mean, I just stumbled across this about the same time I found your phone number. The Oklahoma Food Co-op is going out to the farmers, and the farmers are joining a co-op, and the people in the city join the co-op, and they go to the, let's say, the county courthouse every weekend to pick up their food, to pick up what they've ordered. And if you're doing a co-op and you're buying in bulk, in other words, working together with your neighbors and your friends in that particular town or that particular county, you can buy your coffee and your tea and your Coca-Colas at wholesale plus 10. The farmers can sell their
yeah, I'd like to respond to what you're saying.
Go right ahead, sir. Go right ahead.
I agree with you that the best of country life should be brought to the city. I wrote a book, in fact, 31 years ago on the theme entitled Los Angeles, A History of the Future. And it described how you could, technically, if you wanted, bring the best of nature back to the countryside. Now, it used to be, as you also said, built out of the country, and built a city which is an inconvenient city, built in the name of convenience, that's full of wonderful people who are disconnected from nature, and whose front yards, side yards, back yards, and roofs can all be productive again. And in fact, with new kinds of housing within the city, passive solar, needing no fossil fuel for heating and cooling. We get that off our backs too. I live in Philadelphia now with 40,000 vacant lots, and have been advocating that we rebuild the city, starting within those vacant lots, on the basis of independence from utility companies. We started here at the Philly Orchard Project to fill the vacant lots with fruit trees, nut trees, and berry bushes, and there are 34 orchards in the city so far. And it makes sense that university is magnificent to rebuild our civilization in the 1st century and the 22nd century. And the issue we have in the next generation, because America was built from the 17th, 18th, and 19th century. You would think, which is not going to be readily available to the next generation. I enthusiastically agree with you, Clayton. All this tourism capabilities around, all we need to do, begin to do it.
Well, this system here, it is working. Now, I've said that we've had the answers to all of our problems for the last 100 years, but it's been kept from us by the same people, and our founding fathers, like Thomas Jefferson, told us, if you ever allow a private bank to issue your money, the banks and the corporations that spring up around them will leave your children homeless in the land that we conquered. Got 1 million Americans out of homes.
Exactly.
Right now. And my concept of bringing the country back to the city, that is being done too. That's being done too. There's a family in, I believe, Pasadena, California, that turned their 1/10 of an acre backyard into a garden, producing 6,000 pounds of food in their little neighborhood. And so that's being done too. And I said, well, what about if we took a block? And now I'm actually working on a flyer on this. I'm still gathering some information, and that's exactly what I'm doing with you. I'm gathering information. If we got the co-op.
Well,
That's already set up.
I've read the book on, yeah.
They've got all.
I've written on the theme also. You take a city block, and the money that is used to subsidize people who are dependent and have no authority or control, instead, or as a model or a sample, you take that amount of money meant to their control and subsidize people, and instead rebuild that neighborhood so that the people have power. You move beyond charity to ownership. And this I call, it's a kind of a hybrid. It's neither a strictly capitalist system, and it's not a strictly socialist system. It's what I call a mutual enterprise system, where we take our tools and our time and our talent, we pull it together, as you also were saying earlier. And we create systems of mutual aid, which in fact is an old American tradition. 100 years ago, a third of American households were members of fraternal benefit organizations, like the Moosels, the Oddfellows, the Shriners, the fun handshake people. They were not just getting together at a secret meeting. They built the orphanages, the old folks' homes, the hospitals, the sanitariums. They paid sicknesses out there. They did it on a genuinely non-profit basis, member-owned system. They took democracy out of the voting booth and put it into everyday life.
This is we've had the knowledge for 100 years. You know, 100 years ago, we could light up light bulbs without running wires. I've run across 2 or 3 different engines: the Stirling engine, the one that they used, Vandercoot or something like that. I'm sorry, I don't have the name in front of me. But they had, and today we've got solar, and we've got wind, which we've been using pretty successfully around this country to pump our water for a few 100 years. So we've got the technology here. It's a matter of putting it to work. Well, solar costs too much. Solar costs too much. Solar, and the neighborhood association won't let us have our freedom, our liberty. They won't let us grow tomatoes in the backyard. And this is all parts of tyranny. This is all parts of tyranny. So if you want to break away from this, it just takes a little bit of rethinking what we do and actually go back to the beginning. Now, you got a garage here? Okay, tell you what, why don't you got some tools over there, I see you got some tools there. Well, you know what, I'm just not worth a darn at building things. I'm not, don't know which is the end of the nail to use, and but if you're good at that, why don't you build us some wooden frames here? We'll buy this roll of solar film, and you put that solar film in these frames, and we'll provide it for our neighbor. Stirling engine. That was a Stirling engine, guys, and we get you build these frames. We'll distribute it to the co-op. You build these. I've seen some really pretty wind generators. Have you seen those? They're like spirals. They just make a nice little pattern, and all the time the wind's blowing, these things are turning. They're generating electricity. I think that's a good. I think we've got the technology now.
Yeah, great models. What's called Sonius rotor. Yes. We have technology, and we still have the authority if we will take it. There are thousands of how-to books about all this neighborhood technology. There's even a Center for Neighborhood Technology. I think it's cnp.org over in Chicago. So urban, rural, and suburban. Beautiful variety, millions of initiatives that are not front-page news. Front-page news about how dumb we are, how violent, stupid, and untrustworthy we are. But the real news about American Americans is that we are full of capability, and the tools in the garages, as you say, and the thousands of books about how to. We have had this authority, we can take it back. We gave up that authority. For some years we said, give us a wide highway, fast cars, shopping malls. You just do what you want to with our money, our foreign policy, everything else. You run everything for us. But now people are seeing that was not a good deal. It allowed the Constitution to slip away. So it's up to us to set that straight again, beginning in modest ways in our homes and hometowns, as well as bolder ways as a national movement.
Well, you know what? That is exactly what we're doing. Now, we got the co-op in Oklahoma that shows how it's done. They're already got 10,000 people. You've got 10,000 people using your currency. Now, what I'd like to see is a new co-op put together based on the Oklahoma co-op. We don't need to do it in Oklahoma because they already got it done. We can do it in Texas. We can do it in every county out there. Now, there's another movement out there, again, put on by a friend of mine, Sheriff Richard Mack. It's called the Constitutional Sheriffs and Police Officers Association. And these sheriffs, 300 of them across the country, they have sworn, we took an oath to defend the Constitution, and no expiration date on that. We're not going to let anybody come in and destroy the Second Amendment. We're not going to let anybody confiscate homes in our neighborhoods. We're not going to do that. We're not going to go along with the New World Order plan. Now, there's another friend of mine right over there on border who has put together a militia, which is what I was doing, by the way, the first time I interviewed you. I started the militia in New Mexico, and I promoted the militias in the Free American magazine around the country after what happened in Waco. I mean, come on, I'm not going to sit back and watch our government murder 17 little children and their families without trying to do something again. And the media trashed me, the ADL trashed me, they did their best to demonize me, and yet they're doing this with their local sheriff right over in Laredo, Texas. The militia there is the sheriff's deputies. They're working for the sheriff. You got a problem? You know, beep us, call us. We got cell phones. We got the communication. Got the communication now. We got the computer. We can do this. So we've got sheriffs on our side. We've got legislators that are basically going, wait a minute, you mean they're tapping our phones? What? They're tapping our phones and they're sicking the IRS on us because we voted for Ron Paul? Something wrong with that system, folks. And it goes by a lot of names, fascism, communism, tyranny, you know, king, whatever was convenient at the time. You always got people that want to rule you. You know, this is the ones Jesus ran out of the temple. Now, I think you got more power than you think. I don't think we're victims. I don't think we're helpless. We're not of a class. We're not hyphenated. We're not a special interest. We're not a revenue stream. We are Americans. And it's that kind of pride I want. Not the kind of false pride to support sending my sons over to kill some foreigners that never done anything to us. And it requires a shifting of thought.
Clayton, that is beautifully said. That is beautifully said. I'm going to have to continue with some other obligations I have over on this end of the line, and I have enjoyed talking with you very much.
Let me ask you one more question. Let me ask you one more question before you go. Let me ask you one more question.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, let me ask you one more question before you go. Can we put this together with Ithica hours? Is Ithica hours just for New York? Do we have, because we've got these springing up all over the place, the mountain hours and all that. How can we incorporate what you have done, your work, what you've done, and what you have to offer there within this whole Liberty Village co-op idea? And I have one other question. What do you do about counterfeiting? Two questions here. What do you do about counterfeiting? We got everybody's got.
I don't have a problem with counterfeiting at all.
That could be tracked down easily.
The attorney in the Ithica area announced publicly that counterfeiting Ithica hours would be a felony forgery of a financial instrument. He was on our side.
Great.
And never had a problem with counterfeiting. We did have, I was very proud, in fact, when some thieves stole Ithica hours during a restaurant break-in from the cash box. And we're not content to take dollars. They want to take Ithica hours also. So I've written the book, Hometown Money, which describes step by step how any community, whether it is urban, rural, can start a local currency. And with my recommendations based on experience in Ithica and the experience of other communities over the last 20 years doing money locally. So my website is Paul Glover, P-A-U-L, like Ron Paul, and Glover, like Danny Glover, paulglover.org.
All right, that's up.
So it's been great talking with you, Craig.
I appreciate everything you've done.
Speaking with you at any time on any basis.
All right, sir. Thank you very much. God bless you.
Have a good afternoon.
All right, Richard. We got Tim. All right. All right.
Yes.
Great. What you think, Richard? You know, it does
sound pretty good.
This financial system is working, and he's talking about they're loaning money out. They're loaning money out to people. I think this is the way we finance. All you got to do is put this together in your county. Clear it with your county directors or your county manager. I've been in and met the ones in my county, no problem. And this benefits the businesses in the county, whether we use our mountain hours or whether we get his book. And we got his book up there, Paul Glover. You can go there, paulglover.com. You can order the book. You can see how to put these financial systems together. If we incorporate this with the co-op, that's linking to farmers and the Free American Food Co-op is linking the farmers together with the people in the city. Whoever joins this co-op will have access to all this information. We've already got a classified page for it, so you can sign into the classified page and put a $10 or $20 ad in, something like that, and let people know what you got. Now, send me an email. What you got? What can you do? The key word that he used here, the key word that he used was what is that? Who's that calling me? I don't know that number. I'll pass on that for the moment. The problem here is structure. Now, we've solved all the problems have been taken care of. We know how to build solar. We know how to build a windmill. We know how to build a generator. You know, you can make a wind generator out of 250-gallon barrels if you tell the phone company to go to hell there. Alright. Let me see if I can get to that. See who the hell's calling us here. Since I don't have a guest right now, I guess I can do that. I don't know why it won't let me do that. Oh well. But all of we've had the answers for 100 years, but because the elitists, the globalists, control the press, they don't want you to know what the resources we've got. They don't want you to know about that, do they? Are you still with me, Richard?
Yes, I am.
Okay, all right. The we've got this all together. We've got this available. I think it's just incredible. Actually, we can make the power, and we can certainly grow the food, and we can certainly start eating better. It seems like a win-win proposition. Now that we've got it, and Monday we'll have on the mountain hours. That's closer to me. Ithica hours might be good for you folks over in Michigan or whatever. And it can work anywhere. Really can work anywhere. And if you've got a talent, turn that garage, folks. Turn that garage into something so you're producing. This is the key word. This is what he said. Productivity. Productivity. If they've sent our factories overseas, you can't get jobs up in Detroit, so you kind of have to do it yourself, don't you? And we're taking some calls. We got the this hour is up. Let me see if I can. What if I want to be disturbed? I love you folks telling me how to run a show that I've been doing for 20 years. It might have been a show that I wanted to call that I wanted to take. So I do what I want to anyway. But thanks for the input. It ain't going to work out like that. We're really in, folks. There is now the mainstream has got it up talking about the IRS, talking about the NSA. The NSA was tapping my phones, and it ain't the NSA. Again, it ain't the NSA that's tapping your phones. They got an Israeli company doing it. This ain't just an inside job. This whole government is structured to keep you in debt, to keep you dependent on power, to keep you dependent on food. Now they want to control your water. You got to start right there in Colorado. Now you can grow pot in Colorado, but you can't have the water you can't save the water off the roof to grow it. They will find something, no matter what you do, no matter what idea you come up with, they're going to find something wrong with it. Oh, yeah, Clay's unequal this. Why? He told us, he said this in the third person. Why would you want to do business? Why would you want to work with somebody like that? Now, part of the thing with me, folks, is they tried to isolate me. You can't send somebody in to disrupt a meeting. I'll put you out of the meeting. You know, they're very clever in the way they work. But these and the people that are doing this might be your next door neighbor. Who knows who it was? Maybe it was Paul's family that tried to have him committed because somebody's whispering in their ear. This is the psychological warfare that anybody, even veterans coming home, even the veterans just coming home from Iraq or Vietnam or Afghanistan, they are being set upon by their neighbors. They're being told this is he's got post-traumatic stress syndrome. Make sure he takes these drugs. Make sure he takes these drugs. That's what they tried to do to me. That's what they're trying to do to people. That's what they wanted to do with Brandon Robb. They tried to kill me on May 20th, 2004, and they succeeded in killing Chris Hastings when he was blowing the whistle on it. I was blowing the whistle on George Bush's drug running. We're going to let you live this time, Clay, because we already vetted all of that during the Noriega trial, but don't do anything like that again. And the next thing I did like that was refer to 9/11 as an exaggerated case of Jewish lightning. It was the Mossad in action, and the Mossad tried to take me out the same way they're tapping your phones right now, the same way they're monitoring your phones right now, by the same companies. Same companies. Oh, well, they changed the name. Well, they bought Verizon, they bought this, they bought that. That's what they do. They hide it. Oh, here's the Shell Corporation. Here's the Shell Corporation. Now, what I'm proposing, I am proposing decentralization. They are trying to set blacks against white now. This is what the whole Zimmerman trial is about. And you gotta go, how do you stop that? How do you stop that? Gee, you can't support Clay Douglas. You know, he was selling that, he's selling that book to send money to a snitch named Huevos. He's selling that book to send money to Hamas. He's selling that money to send money. He's selling that book to send money to Iran. You know, the Muslims are backing him. You know, it's and depending on who you listen to, it's the Muslims that control Hollywood. This is all psychological warfare. People are being fed false information, and some people, I'm sorry, they frankly don't have the brains to read through what's propaganda, to read through, the attempts to distract, or the attempts to tell you what you got. Yeah, you got all those tools there, Red. What are you going to do with them? What are you going to do with them? And this has been distracted. This has been going along. I said we stopped the Vietnam War. We exposed the whole Gulf of Tonkin incident. The Vietnamese were doing nothing but defending their land from the French, from the Americans. But okay, you own the tools, you don't know how to use them, then bring somebody and hire a vet. I think that's one of the things that we probably ought to do with these Liberty Villages. Okay, we're going to assign a veteran, former Special Forces, to your neighborhood. He's going to educate you on how to set up your neighborhood so it's setting up in your neighborhood. We're going to show you, this is going to expand the neighborhood watch, and we're going to show you how to put those tools to use in your garage, what you can do, what you can build, how you can contribute. This is, the answers are here. We've got tremendous amount of information. I collect information. I remember everything I read, and I file it somewhere, and I can go back and find it on this computer. That information will become yours if you're a part of the co-op. Now, I've had 4,000 subscribers to the Free American. I had 10,000 readers. And we can we can do this. Now, it may not be, everything may not be right for you. maybe you really like those goldfish there, and you want to expand that and make a raised tilapia, make it into a make your swimming pool there into a fish pond, and the fish feed your crops. The crops, you know, how much you want to put in? You want to use that pool for something other than taking a bad dip in every now and then? Can't remember how much I have in the pool here. How much money I must have spent on electricity to run that pool, and I jumped in there once a week. In some of the states, we can do a lot more. In Colorado right now, every Liberty Village, every block of Liberty Village can be growing hemp, growing pot, and selling that to all the folks that don't want to grow it, don't want to mess with it, don't know how. We can do this. This is, and there are more states, all of them actually. I think this is in the Congress right now, that they're going to they're looking to legalize growing hemp nationwide. We need to do that. You need to press for that. And but we don't want to smoke marijuana. Well, too bad. One plant 1,000. Let them find the one that's a female seed. We'll be right back. We'll take your call.